Hello and welcome to the Lincoln Minerals Investor Webinar. Today we're joined by Chief Executive Officer Chris Wilcox. This session will focus on how Lincoln is positioning itself as a discovery-focused copper company. We will also cover the planned exploration program, including relogging and reassaying of historic drill core, wide-spaced air core drilling, and follow-up drilling at priority targets such as Eagle Ridge. I'll now hand you over to Chris.
Thanks, Kristen, and thanks for joining us today. So that was a good summary of Lincoln. Please note the disclaimer. So just a quick overview. A discovery type intersection of copper, lead, zinc, silver and historic drilling identified at the Minbury project has reinvigorated our exploration on the Eyre Peninsula. And more broadly, though, we're actively focused on testing the potential for copper at the entire Minbury project. And beyond that, looking at our underexplored tenement holding on the southern Eyre Peninsula. So Lincoln is focused on copper discovery. Copper because the forecast demand is forecast to outpace supply, and this is driven by renewable energy, data centers, and developing country growth, and focused on discovery because exploration is a set of tools that we use, but it's discovery that creates real value. South Australia hosts 66% of Australia's copper resources. And this is important because the best place to explore for new resources is the underexplored areas of geological terrains with significant existing resources. And Lincoln holds 1,100 square kilometres of tenements in the Gawler Craton close to infrastructure. The Eyre Peninsula has the right ingredients for base metal discoveries. So in world-class copper belts, we expect to see a range of mineralization styles. And in the Eastern Gawler Craton, we see IOCGs, epithermals, skarns, sediment-hosted mineralization. And what we're seeing at Minbury, something, skarn or carbonate replacement style, fits within this conceptual belt, model. So at Minbury and Eagle Ridge, a review of historic drilling identified an intercept of 29.5 meters at 0.8% copper, 7.5% lead, 1.9% zinc, and 9 grams per ton silver. This is a discovery type intercept sitting beneath less than 100 meters of cover, which has been ineffectively tested down dip. Discovery type intersections like this don't come along every day, particularly at such shallow depths. And it's absolutely something to be excited about. The discovery hole is just the tip of the iceberg, though. It's clear from historic drilling that the strike potential of Eagle Ridge has not been effectively followed up. There is about 1.7 kilometres of completely untested potential immediately south along strike of the discovery hole. The historic holes that have been relogged and reassayed to date show that there is potential for copper and base metal mineralization over 7 kilometres of strike, but only 30% of the historic holes have been relogged by Lincoln to date. And in some cases, the bottom of holes have never been assayed. So this creates an opportunity for identifying additional copper targets within the belt. While 7 kilometres of strike was historically drilled, the stratigraphy that hosts Eagle Ridge is interpreted to extend for approximately 17 kilometres within the tenement. This 17 kilometres is largely untested, and given the potential for mineralisation demonstrated by the Eagle Ridge hole, identifying targets across the whole belt is a priority. And while While the discovery intersection at Eagle Ridge is exciting and it's tempting to focus on tightly spaced drilling around that hole, it's definitely a more strategic. It's more strategic to first identify multiple targets across the whole belt for follow-up drilling, and this approach will allow us to test for potential for scale. In addition to Minbury, though, we've identified high-grade surface samples from the late 1980s on our Southern Air project. This is a similar geological setting to Minbury, and the results were not effectively followed up. And while this is an earlier stage of exploration compared to Minbury, it demonstrates the discovery potential across all of the Eyre Peninsula tenements. Looking to our upcoming work, our news flow is obviously focused on Minbury. First, we're going to finalise the drilling approvals for Minbury and follow that up with wide-spaced air core across the 17 kilometres of strike. We'll also recommence the re-logging and re-assaying of historic core at Minbury. Look, diamond drilling's expensive, and collecting geology and multi-element data from existing drill core is a huge cost saving. So the targets generated from the air core and re-logging will be ranked, and the best targets, including Eagle Ridge, will then be tested with diamond drilling. Yeah, Minbury is an exciting discovery opportunity, and I want to leave no stone unturned in realising its potential. So yeah, Lincoln has an experienced team to deliver these programs, and collectively our skills include exploration, development, governance, and investment banking, and we're supported by some well-respected expert consultants. So thanks for your time today, and I'll hand it back to Kristen.
Thanks, Chris, for that overview. We'll now move into some questions that have come through from investors. What is the current status for land access and regulatory approvals required to start the Eyre Core program, and what are the contingency steps if access is delayed?
We've been actively negotiating with landowners since before Christmas, and negotiation is a process, and I will update the market as soon as we have access for drilling. It's really important to build a strong relationship with our landowners because that we're operating on, and it's critical to Lincoln's long-term success. In terms of a contingency, where the re-logging of historic core can commence without waiting for land access. So the plan is to commence that work ASAP.
Thanks, Chris. Staying on the exploration theme, but stepping back to a broader strategy, this next question. The company raised capital in August last year following an extended period of re-assaying and assessment work at Minbury. The original plan referenced diamond drilling. Is diamond drilling still part of the 2026 plan?
Yeah, absolutely. Diamond drilling is part of the 2026 plan. Rather than concentrating on 2 or 3 tightly spaced holes around Eagle Ridge, though, it's more strategic for us to identify multiple targets across the 17-kilometre trend. And this can be done with the air core and re-logging programs, and the targets can then be ranked objectively. The best targets will follow up with diamond drilling, and Eagle Ridge will be one of those. And this approach really increases our chances of making a meaningful copper discovery rather than just validating some historic holes.
Thanks, Chris. Another question received is around graphite. To what extent can graphite and/or magnetite deals provide enough near-term income to allow for the needed expansion of the copper drilling program, or does there need to be further capital raises?
At this stage, our focus is firmly on copper discovery, particularly at Minbury, but also the Southern Air, potential will also be tested over time. The MOU with Revera and the collaboration agreement with SCN Canada are really about creating optionality and enhancing the value of those assets rather than relying on them to fund drilling.
Okay, thanks, Chris. And finally, taking a longer term view, would the board recommend Lincoln Minerals as a 3 to 5 year investment to a family member, and why?
Geologically, our projects are exciting, and discovery type intercepts like the one that we have at Eagle Ridge don't come along every day. So I see real potential for Lincoln to make a significant discovery. And yes, I would recommend Lincoln as an investment.
Thanks, Chris. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. That's all we've got time for. A recording of the webinar will be available on the company's website in the coming days. For further updates, please visit www.lincolnminerals.com.au. Thank you again for your time.